Good afternoon and welcome to the Healthy Indoors Live Show. I'm your host, Bob Krell. And sorry to keep those of you waiting to see the stream start at 1 p.m. Waiting for 6 minutes. We had a little bit of an audio glitch here with Zoom in the back end of the show. So anyway, we're here. Such is the case with live stream and live television sometimes. So anyway, happy Thursday. Today's show is going to be talking about an upcoming event that we're really excited about for a couple of reasons, because I think it's a unique, novel event. First and foremost. Secondly, we're one of the platinum partners for the event, so we're heavily invested in it, and we believe this is going to be a really exciting event. But we'll get into that in a sec. One of the things that I would like to talk about here quickly. Let me just get our graphics all squared away here. Oh my goodness. This is what happens when you start late. Okay, great. We're being brought to you today in part by Erlab. They're the makers of the Halo Smart Air Purification Stations, which is a complete air treatment system for room level mitigation, providing 99.995% clean air for workspaces, meeting rooms, restaurants, gyms, and more. With Halo Smart, Erlab has created market-leading professional solutions for purifying the air in enclosed spaces where people gather. You can learn more about that Halo Smart at halo.erlab.com. So, and of course, the show is also being brought to you by our topic for today, which is Healthy Buildings America 2021. With us today, our guest for the show is someone who's intricately involved in that. It's John Downey. He is the executive director of CIRI, which is the Cleaning Industry Research Institute. Hey, John, how are you?
Hi, Bob. I'm great. How are you?
Good. And now that we got through the audio issues coming into the show, yeah, I feel great. Oh man. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I would.
nothing like making you feel real comfortable coming in. I was thinking about how many hours we've streamed since the pandemic started with Healthy Indoors, with events and everything else, and we've literally done about 300 hours of live streaming, ish. Maybe a little bit more. And I will say, out of those 300 hours, there's been a couple of bumps. Not too many, but a couple. This was one.
Well, memorable. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
it's never comfortable for somebody that's not used to being on shows and being online and seeing these things. So that in that regard, I think it's difficult for people. Sometimes it can be, right. I mean, it certainly didn't make you feel great coming in, but yeah, rest assured, whatever. So I'm just checking all the monitors, looking at all the feeds. Now I'm paranoid as hell, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, okay, what else is going wrong in the back end? But no, we're all good. So hey, to everybody in our live virtual studio audience, we've got a bunch of people sitting in here today. Welcome. Good to see you. We're going to take your live questions not too far into the show. We'll actually let you guys come on and start asking questions. So at this point, if you have a burning question in your mind, you can type it into the chat. Our editor from Healthy Indoors Magazine, Susan Valenti, is sitting there moderating the chat, and we'd be happy to entertain any questions you might have up. Those of you who possibly watching the show from the Healthy Indoors online global community, which there always are some, and that's outside of the virtual studio audience, you guys here that are in the Zoom meeting, you can chat in that chat box on the Healthy Indoors global community, and we'll pick that up on another monitor and we'll bring that in too. So there, okay, we're done. John, let's talk. Why are we here today? We're talking about the event. Tell us about
Yes.
the event. Those of you who don't know.
First of all, thank you for having me, Bob. I appreciate it. And as you mentioned, actually, I guess I want to maybe specify that you're more special than you realize. Healthy Indoors is the platinum media partner for the Healthy Buildings 2021 America Conference. So we really appreciate what you're doing. We're doing our best to get the word out in a variety of medias and ways, but you're front and center, and that's because we really believe in you've got a good audience, good viewership, readership, and I think it's a good connection between us. There's a good fit.
Feeling is totally mutual and really and much appreciated.
So healthy buildings. I would imagine many of the people who are watching right now live are at least somewhat familiar with it. Healthy Buildings is a conference put on every 2 years by ISIAC, International Society of Indoor Air Quality and Climate. And this year, and boy, we could talk a little bit, probably don't want to, about the challenges associated with doing a conference this year. But this year, CIRI, the Cleaning Industry Research Institute, which is the organization I'm the executive director of, is the host organization, and we're holding it live in person, God willing, we're determined, in Honolulu, Hawaii on November 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Okay, and I'm going to put a graphic up for you on that. There we go. And again, this is a 16th annual Healthy Buildings event, or not annual, 16th of time this event's been held. But this one, why does this differ so much? Because this is a little bit of a different focus for ISIAC, is it not?
Very much so, and I think it's kind of a different focus for the industry. I mean, what makes it different is that it is truly a focused research to practice, and I'd like to say also practice to research conference. The Healthy Buildings conferences, and I only know this from talking to Richard Shaughnessy in particular, going back to very early on, were supposed to be research to practice conferences. But my understanding is they just never really developed that way. And while they were, the talk was that it would involve practitioners in significant ways, it really didn't happen. What's different is that CIRI we're not exclusively, but we're primarily a practitioner-based organization. That's who the cleaning industry, the restoration industry, and the remediation industry, and all the components associated with those industries, which I'll say is plural, although they're kind of commingled. That's who we focus on. That is who we generate and communicate science for. So with those industries, there is and our determination, and when I say our determination, I'm not just saying CIRI, our determination with Shaughnessy, with Kerry Kinney, the president of the conference, and with the organizing committee has been we will have a conference that involves both elements, both practitioners and researchers in a different way. And honestly, I've had some great conversations with people. I've had some great conversations with people who are kind of doubting Thomas's as it relates to is that really what's going to happen? And all I can say is just give us a chance. That's what we're determined to do. If you give us a chance, that's what's going to happen. Is it going to be? In my opinion, it is not going to be the end of it. It's really the beginning of it, of a different relationship. And the other thing is it going to involve all the researchers there? Is it all the 300 and more than 300 presentations, both oral and poster? Of course not. But it's going to be what's featured. And, ISIAC, and I've learned so much about ISIAC in it's now been 2 years since I began this quest. And we're down to 90 days, or just about. I lost my train of thought.
It happens. And I'm not going to say it's age related, but it could be.
But I resemble that remark.
Well, yeah.
So I guess as it relates to that, just kind of maybe to put a bit of a capstone on it, is there are a lot of ideas about what can and cannot be done. There are, as I mentioned, there are some doubting Thomases, and I understand that. And I don't know exactly long term how this is going to play out. But I do know that for Siri, we're determined to make this work because we're kind of in a unique position in that we see what's going on in the research community, and we see there's so much research that is related to what the people in the industries we serve, it's related to what they do, but they just keep missing each other. There are two ships passing in the night.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's been the case in the industry forever. I mean, I've been in the industry 36 years now, and there's always been this disconnect. I mean,
yes, but the idea, I mean, I guess now this may be my pride showing. I don't know, but I feel as though Siri is the missing link that can connect these two. That's honestly, that's a big part of my mission as executive director of Siri, is to bring that about, because Siri is the first and only cleaning science research organization serving these industries, nonprofit. So we're kind of a unique beast, if you will, and we have a narrow niche. I mean, we're not a trade association. We're a professional technical organization, and the industry isn't used to that. And that's part of the reason I think that there's been a connection, is there's never been a organization like Siri that the people that are in research can turn to, that is not a commercial, even a trade association.
A commercial entity per se. Yeah. I mean, and the trade associations are for the most part, obviously 901(c)(3)s too. So I mean, they are not for profits, but they have an agenda. A trade association. Well, I mean, everybody has an agenda. Let's be real here, right? We all do. But the reality is this is long overdue. I mean, in this industry, I mean, it really is, because there's great research that I've said this for years. I mean, decades now, that there's some great information that rarely trickles down to the practitioner level and almost never makes it to the consumer level. I mean, and again, it would have to be distilled, but it's still, those mechanisms aren't in place. And most importantly, I think, John, is that we need bi-directional communication. It's not just preaching down from academia. Academia needs to have a basis for what to research next and what makes the most sense, that'll have some actionable results. Because I mean, it's great doing philosophical research, but it would be nice to have more research that's driven towards actually affecting change.
Absolutely. I completely agree. An interesting side comment on that, when you say bidirectional, it also goes the other way. Now, most of this is 1990s and 2000s research, but there had been a fair amount of research done in the industry, in the cleaning industry, in the restoration industry, and to some extent even in the remediation realm. That was not done by academics. It was not done in academia. It was done for and by the industry served. And there's almost no knowledge of that research in the academic circles. I found that out when I actually was asked to present at a conference at Ohio State in 1919, and basically it was all academic research about carpet and resuspension and particles and VOCs and all this academic stuff. And I, very much by coincidence, did they find me. But what I did once they found me is I presented on research that I was aware of, and nobody knew about this stuff. And what the interesting thing about it was, a lot of that research reached exactly the opposite conclusion of what the research, the academics that were there had reached. And I don't mean to suggest that ours was better or their, it has
Well, it
nothing
was
to do
coming at
with
it
it.
from different angles and probably using different parameters and different variables, and so there's
Exactly.
probably there's valuable information probably to glean from both, right? I would assume.
And what's really valuable is to find out why we reach different, to determine why we reach
Mm-hmm.
different conclusions. Because I know that the quality of the research that I was familiar with was high quality, and I know from being at the conference that the research they were doing was also high quality. So you put those things together, and it becomes a really important question to ask. All right, so we're trying to get to the bottom of it. We've looked at it from different perspectives. Let's see if we can put it together and figure out, really what's the bigger truth about this.
So I mean, the question still, remains to be answered. Whether there's going to be this melding of academia and field practice. But this is a good starting point. I mean, at least there's a major international event from a recognized international organization. And I'm speaking of ISIAC, and your organization is a newer organization, but certainly a respected organization as well. And so, the big question mark now is to see how this is received and how well it works. And I guess we'll know, I guess, sometime like between November 9th and 11th, at least the start of it. So let's talk to the event just a little bit, because I think this is maybe a lot of people here that have heard of it but are not really sure. And I know my first reaction before we got involved with the event was Hawaii. Ooh, that's like so far to go and so expensive, and and I found that I wasn't accurate in that at all. It actually is not that expensive. It is a long ways, but it is in Hawaii. I guess we got to stress that point. It's like it's a double-edged sword. You go, oh, it's so far, but it's like it's Hawaii. This is an event in Hawaii. That's a big
That's
deal.
exactly right. It's a
I'm
long way
excited
away,
about that.
and and not it's Hawaii, but it's Hawaii, and we're all itching to get out. I mean, we closed the abstract several weeks abstract submission process and sent out notifications on abstracts for both oral and poster presentations. About 10 days ago, I think. Actually, we were supposed to hear back from people just by Tuesday. And one of the things that was very interesting, well, actually related things are interesting. First of all, with COVID, there's a lot of questions. I mean, there is a lot of uncertainty, especially with the Delta variant, about whether people can come, and that's one of the things we wanted to know. Because this is to be a face-to-face, in-person event, and we're determined that it will be, unless the state of Hawaii says no, you can't come. But what we found is actually a strong majority are planning to attend, and even those who aren't sure really want to attend. So there is a strong desire to attend the conference by the people that are involved in it so far, and both practitioners and also academics.
So you did receive a lot of quite a few abstracts, right? There wasn't just a few. There were numerous abstracts.
It was it was basically double what a Healthy Buildings Conference typically gets. The total number was in the 380s. Now that included some that were withdrawn and various things. So right now we are at approximately 320 oral and poster presentations.
Which is a lot for a 3-day event.
Believe me, I know.
You're going to need to qualify this to people who haven't been to an ISIAC event or an academic event. The way it's done, right? So we're not looking at per se like 60-minute presentations from different presenters. That's how you're able to get so many different topics on a stage.
Exactly. You'll have the oral presentations, and we'll come back to workshops, which are a little bit different. But the standard oral presentations are 10-minute presentations, and you'll have a session where you'll have a 90-minute session. You'll have seven 10-minute presentations, and then 20 minutes for a Q&A. And your people are moving in and out. The research needs to be, when I say the research, the presentations need to be concise. I mean, that's both the good and the bad of it. I think it's mostly good that they're concise, because but they have to be pretty narrow in their focus, which is typical of research.
Sure. Well, these are like TED Talks, effectively. I mean, that's kind of what they are. They're like truncated TED Talks.
Yeah, that's a great. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's a great way of looking at it. And especially on the practitioner side, where you're not, few practitioners, some people that are involved in practice have done research in different ways, and there's different components of the practice side. But for the most part, practitioners are going to be talking about problems, basically problem solving, and how they went about solving problems. Or perhaps they had a problem, they identified it, they tried a solution, it didn't work. To my mind, I think I said this in the last time I was on the show, to my mind, that's almost more valuable than somebody getting up and saying, I did this, I solved the problem by using this or whatever. But there are a lot of issues that a business person runs into. And I think we kind of have to re-envision what research means in a business setting. And that is, and honestly, it's kind of an interesting segue here into one of the challenges that we had when we were reviewing the abstracts was when researchers would review a practitioner abstract, it was often lacking the stuff that the research rigor that they're looking for. So we had to kind of bring them through that process and understand if it's a practitioner abstract, it's a different deal.
Yeah, I mean it's a challenge. I was on the review committee too, and I ended up reviewing mostly researcher presentations, which I found interesting. I expected to be reviewing practitioners, but it was challenging for me a little bit because I had to really delve into their topics, more than I probably would on a normal review of information at an event. But some really great stuff there. So let's talk a little bit about what type of stuff should somebody expect. What type of topics, what are some of the areas that will be getting addressed? And I know it's being structured in that one of the tracks. There's 4 tracks for the conference, or you're still hashing that out, right? How many tracks? But one track will be dedicated to practitioner. Okay.
It is. We're going to have 4 tracks. Okay. I'm not saying it could not change, but we are pretty determined that it will be very difficult to go to more than 4 tracks. We have a volume of good papers that require that many tracks. Mm-hmm. The only loose end is how many people are we going to lose who can't travel, and what are we going to do about that? And mm-hmm. I can talk a little bit about what we have planned for that. But as far as what we're going to be talking about, obviously there will be a lot of papers related to COVID. There's been a lot of research done. A lot of the papers that will be at this conference that are related to COVID are going to be basically about indoor air, about ventilation, filtration. There's some papers that are also maybe about different types of systems for purifying air. But the bulk of them are more on, as I said, ventilation, filtration, which seem to be kind of the key.
Yeah, it's a big focus right now, obviously. Yeah.
Right. there have been a number. There will be a lot of papers related to disinfection, cleaning, and disinfection processes. We know that as things have evolved with COVID, it has become more and more apparent, and I think it's become more and more. Period. Not just apparent, but it has, as time has gone on, it has become a aerosol acquired disease. But there have been a number of really good papers about identifying COVID. What's the effect of cleaning and disinfection? Surface. Can you identify COVID on surfaces? What value is there in that? One of the things that, and this is, I'm going to drift off a little bit, but one of the things that I have found a little bit of a misnomer or a misunderstanding is we have kind of, with COVID, we've gotten into this. It's surfaces, it's air. It's one or the other. It's never one or the other, because what's in the air goes on surfaces. What's on surfaces goes to the air. It's literally a fluid environment.
Yeah, but I mean, predominantly the infection, everybody, there's pretty much consensus that most of it is acquired, from aerosol transmission, not from fomites, from surfaces, right?
The vast majority. But as I said, COVID that's on surfaces, air movement brings them into the air.
The particles. Yeah. I mean, you do have to holistically look at an environmental space, but I mean, the primary vector is going to be coming from an individual that's infected. And that's, so that's challenging, right? Because it's, and this Delta variant appears, at least initially, to be a bit more contagious. So that certainly raises the specter of, we might be coming into a phase of this pandemic globally that could be pretty rough. We may not be out of the woods here yet.
Believe me, I very much know that.
Yeah.
That part. We actually had Siri had a executive committee meeting yesterday, and Greg Whiteley, who is one of the plenary speakers at Healthy Buildings and is also on our executive committee, talked a bit about the Delta variant and what's making it different, and essentially, basically, what's happening with COVID as it mutates is he described it as, it's becoming more sticky. It's doing a better job of getting into the lungs and sticking in the lungs and then reproducing. And I don't know that we necessarily know how that relates to severe sickness or mortality. I mean, those are different issues. Certainly, he said that all the evidence supports the fact that it is much more highly contagious than the original COVID.
I mean, and this is what viruses do. That's one of the the insidious parts of viruses. As part of their evolutionary process, is the longer they stay out in the public, right? Or out in the environment, the more opportunity they have to reinfect and mutate. So the longer it's around, the more it's probably going to be modifying. I do want to point out for anyone in the virtual studio audience or watching us on the HI community, throw your questions in there, because we'd be happy to take those for John. So I have a question for you. So the abstracts have been selected. So you've basically, you have your overall, what your program is. Obviously, some of it's, I'm assuming this is like a really complicated Tetris game, isn't it? Like to move everybody around and get everything lined up in an actual schedule. I mean, it seems to me, because I've been involved in conference planning over the years too for various associations, but having these really tight multiple presentations, there's a lot of little pieces to move around and have this scheduled. So where are you guys at in that process?
Just getting started, and really we can't get started until we know who we have, and then you start piecing it together. But you have 90-minute sessions, and we will, within each 90-minute session, you'll have 4 tracks, and each 90-minute session in a track will have, we will kind of put together related talks, related pieces. A lot of times we're going to, if they're related in what they're talking about, but we can put maybe 3 or 4 practitioner talks with 3 or 4 researcher talks. That's what we want to do. We talked briefly about, or you talked briefly about the live stream. That's an important component of the conference. There will be a live stream that will include all of the plenary sessions and one featured track, one out of the 4 tracks. And the featured track is going to be primarily, if not exclusively, a research to practice track. And I'm happy to announce while we have it that we've selected the organization that's going to produce that, and it happens to be the people that I'm talking to right now. So
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to have you announce that as well. Yeah, we're very excited. We're super excited. We've been doing live streaming for a while, and we've been doing hybrid events before the pandemic. So this is not new territory for us. It was more of an uphill push, though. I'll tell you, like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, doing hybrid events, you had to like drag people kicking and screaming to come to those because nobody wanted to do that. But now, post a whole year plus of everything being online, now the hybrid event seems like a great alternative. So we're
right,
excited.
right. And for this, you had mentioned, it's a long way to Hawaii. One of our concerns is people in the eastern U.S. You're still, and actually even more so when we started, but still even now, it's still hurricane season. So for those people to make a commitment to go to Hawaii, that they may have to break if a late hurricane comes in.
Oh, for practitioners that could be doing the storm chasing. Yeah, that's true. That's a valid point.
Right. I mean, we wanted to have an option, especially for those people feeling like there's going to be people that just don't feel comfortable leaving their businesses during that time. And the other thing is it enables us to focus this live stream on really what the purpose of the event is, which is research to practice. So it will be very much targeted that way. I'm excited about that part of it. I'm even more excited about the face-to-face, and that's
Sure.
That's important to us because it's kind of something we've talked about previously. It's the downside to a hybrid event or a virtual event. You don't have the same interaction between sessions that you have in something that's live. So if you have something that's live and in person, the people are there, and this is true. I mean, I think we've all experienced it if we have attended these things. An awful lot of the value of those conferences is not just the sessions, it's
Sure.
the conversations and relationships developed between sessions, at networking events, dinners. We're going to have a really cool dinner, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, to that end, I will tell you from the live stream standpoint, because again, this isn't our first clam bake here. There will be some interaction. We will create some opportunities for online people during when there's breaks in the actual live sessions. We'll create some networking opportunities online. And I know it's not the same, but it's it's not going to just be blank airspace. And that's the other thing is like our envisionment will be producing a live show that goes all day long every day, and some of those breaks where you would have lunch live in Hawaii, or we're at lunch, we'll actually have opportunities for people on the online audience to network and speak and do things. So it'll be nice. I trust me. We're excited for it.
I do trust you. I'm excited to have you doing it.
And
So that will be.
yeah, the one thing is like, the only thing I dread a little bit is packing up our entire production and flying it to Hawaii. Because we've done a lot of events where we drive it in a trailer and stuff, but it's a little scarier to stick it in flight cases and put it on planes. But we got it.
got to do what you got to do,
Got to
right?
do what you got to do, and it's Hawaii. I have to bring that point too. It's like, you know, it's not a bad thing.
There's some good things about that state.
There's a lot of good things about that state. I'm very excited to go there. Yeah, that's so. And I guess, at the live event, there's going to be opportunities for networking there because obviously, your primary focus is still the live in-person event, right? The in-person event. So you're going to help facilitate that because there's going to have to be some ice breaking, right, to get researchers to talk to us lowly practitioners. Is that true?
Yes. That will be kind of interesting. Yes, I mean
Yeah,
there will be
we're
ice.
kind of like, we're kind of like the lower class there. We're not, but I mean, it's you might
What do
feel
we?
that way
What do we?
sometimes.
The huddled masses.
Yeah,
We won't be huddled though. We will be wearing our Hawaii shirts.
you will. Okay, I'm. You're not going to see me in a Tommy Bahama. I always am featured in black.
um, yeah, I mean, there's a reception the first evening. The dinner is the second evening. We're planning to have I almost like they call them Cracker Barrel sessions, where we kind of bring in some practitioners and some researchers who can have some spirited discussions. I don't
Guys, are you going to
see
pick
him.
her up?
We're going to mute that one.
The one of the as far as
cracker, I've never heard the term Cracker Barrel, so I always have to ask, where did that come from? That's a new one for me.
maybe I'm thinking of the wrong name, but basically it's kind of something where as an example, a practitioner will bring up a subject that relates to research to practice and what is needed from a practitioner perspective, challenge those from the research standpoint to address it. And then they will address it, and you kind of have a semi-debate or discussion about it, and then you reverse it, and the researchers talk about their needs and how and perhaps what some things they'd like to see from practitioners that would help them to make their research more relevant and for people in the industry. There's value in that for researchers because if the research shows value in the commercial area, both the people that do grants and the universities find that's a good thing for them because
they need to get funded. They're looking for sponsors for various research projects.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So
that's
and then a variety of other small things that we're going to have a social for students, and there will be a number of students here. I'm amazed at how many students have submitted to do presentations.
Is that typical for this type for the Healthy Buildings event? Do they normally get that many abstracts, or is this another atypical response?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
This is the first time I've done one.
I get it. Yeah.
I think that it is. I think you know what? Honestly, Bob, we've had more of everything, and as a consequence of having more of everything, we have more student interest in this.
Well, I mean,
so
it makes sense.
And it was kind of surprising. We actually have and somebody here knows it. We actually have a high school, a just graduating high school student who is going to do a poster presentation.
Yeah,
that we're pretty.
That's unique. I mean, but I think maybe it goes to show the evolution maybe of the industry in general. We have an audience question I just got to ask you. This is actually unrelated to the event, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it got thrown in there. Siri did a study with ATP testing a while back, and he's thinking 10 years ago. But you weren't around 10 years ago, but maybe somebody, somebody that you work with did. Have there been any developments on ATP, or is it still, something that's, tried and
Well,
true?
the work Patrick Hartshorn.
Yep.
Hello, Patrick. Thank you for the question. Yes, the work that was done probably started in 2007 or 8 was to identify a effective method for measuring cleaning effectiveness or efficacy, specifically in a school setting. And Siri looked at several different alternatives in addition to ATP. In fact, as I understand it, when they began the search, they really weren't very high on ATP, but as time went on, they looked at the alternatives. They felt that ATP was probably the best and most practical way to measure. And part of it, the reason for that is it's a very quick, relatively inexpensive process. So that was done. From that research, a standard was developed with the ISSA, ISSA Clean Standard for K-12 schools. And that was the scope of that work and what came of it. Since that time, actually, there's been a lot of work that Greg Whiteley, among others, and various colleagues of his have done that have kind of been aimed at improving the reliability of ATP testing. There are lots of things with ATP that are potentially problematic. First of all, you've got 3 or 4 different companies,
Right.
3 or 4 different devices,
and the numbers between the different technologies. You can't take, I'm not even going to say their name brands, but the different ones, the numbers are not the same. They're with the numbers are only relative to that device and that technology and that type of swab you're using.
Exactly. They're speaking different languages.
Totally.
So one thing that Whiteley has done, it's not the only thing he's done, but I think it was, and this was published in Siri's publication a couple years ago, is he and colleagues have developed an algorithm to try to bring about some conformity between those, so that this number with this device is relatively equivalent to this number with this device.
Good luck with that. I'm gonna let Patrick. Do you have a follow up on this that you want to throw in?
Not a follow up. He's kind of answered my curiosity question there. There really hasn't been. Siri hasn't done anything since then, it sounds like, but there has been no established standard or anything that if you use an ATP test, here's your range. 1 to 2 is good, 3 to 5 is bad. It doesn't exist.
Well, it's hard because they're not on level playing fields. It's like taking tape, for mold, taking tape lifts, taking swabs, and maybe taking some, like micrometer, right, some enzyme based thing, and trying to get a single number that works for all of them. It's not. They're effectively different. They're the same technology, but effectively they're different because they have different ways. I mean, they're still creating a bioluminescence and reading it with a light meter effectively, but.
Right, and sampling techniques. Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you can skew those just, and then there's things that will affect the outcome. Other interference type products that can be on a surface too that can throw it off. We've used ATP in my company since 2000 actually.
I was mostly curious because the term ATP kind of disappeared there for a while in my world, and then all of a sudden, the last 6, 7, 8 months, it's showing up. Contractors are using it to say, I did a great job, and it seems to be coming back.
Yeah, and the one I will say, and John, you may have a comment on this. I know we're totally off topic, but it's an interesting one, right? Because ATP, I think, got a resurgence during the pandemic because many people were out there claiming they're testing for COVID with ATP, which I find
Heard that.
comical at the least, because viruses are not alive and don't generate adenosine triphosphate. So really, is that what you're doing is you're doing a hygiene test of the surface, and then I guess you're trying to make that leap of faith that, well, if there's not organic material on the surface, there's probably no viral content on the surface.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know.
So in the last issue of the SIRI publication, which I'll put on the screen.
You should.
Journal of Cleaning Science, Ralph Moon wrote a paper that really relates to what we're talking about, and especially as it relates to ATP use in the restoration remediation field. Because SIRI's work was never related to the restoration remediation area. In fact, SIRI was, ISSA came out with another standard and used the same data as was developed for the K-12 schools for cleaning office buildings, and SIRI wanted nothing to do with that because we're talking different environmental factors. But anyway, this article, put it here up there.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, look at that! It says misuse too. Nice.
And that's new.
Yeah, it's it was in the spring, in March.
Okay.
In March, so issue.
You're going to cross post that to the Healthy Indoors online community, aren't you?
I guess I'm going to. Yes, I will. I mean, SIRI's publication is for members only, although this particular paper I provided to, or I gave permission to Ralph Moon to, he was the author of it, to use basically to distribute as he feels appropriate. And I know he feels it's appropriate, and he's going to actually present on this at the conference. So we are going back to the conference to a certain extent.
There we go. That we've come full circle, and what a great segue.
So, but the point about it, as it relates to that, is that what he pointed out is all the variables involved in those type situations, restoration, remediation situations, and all the variables. Patrick, you were talking about testing methodologies and things like that. Well, he goes through all that stuff and other variables, surfaces. There's huge variability from surface to surface. Some surfaces are appropriate, others are not. Some
well,
are
that's
more,
true with any swab, though. That's not just ATP. When you take a swab sample of anything, if it's a deep fiber type thing, you're only getting the surface. You're not getting deep into the fiber.
Right. So yeah, those are
physical limitations.
It's interesting. I mean, it kind of what it should do with all of us is keep us humble. That we haven't got it all figured out. It also, in my opinion, it shows that the people that take their profession seriously, the ones that are going to be able to use something like ATP appropriately, and those who don't, unfortunately, end up giving it a bad name. It happened before; it will happen again.
Well, it's like any technology, it has its limitations, right? I mean, and it's predominantly, I would say almost exclusively, it's for verifying post cleaning and the hygienic condition of a surface after cleaning. ATP is not to go in and doing front end diagnostics. Do you have mold in a building, and people say they use ATP for that? That's absurd. That's not what that technology is for. It's just to tell you whether you have an organic material load on a surface. That's all. That's what it does. And it's good.
All it does.
It's right. Honest to God, from the first time we saw that technology back in 2000, we grabbed it and we were using it in the remediation industry in the early days. And we did a lot. I would say we did quasi studies where we put it against surface tape lifts and mycometer, the enzyme. And we did for a state project up in Massachusetts. We did hundreds and hundreds of all of those samples side by side, right, taking all three, boom, 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 and catalog that. And there was an amazingly tight correlation for clearance. When ATP cleared, we looked good on tape and we looked good on mycometer. And conversely, when ATP failed, we generally found a problem in the other technologies too. So. Anyway, well, so we're getting to the end of the hour. I'm going to let us run a few minutes over because we started a few minutes late, and I don't want to cheat you out of minutes, dude. I guess I wouldn't feel right about that. Um, so let's talk a little bit, kind of a final wrap up pitch for the event. I mean, this is a really, I think this is a unique, novel event for a couple reasons. The fact that it is focused on both academia, which is what an ISIAC conference would normally be focused on, and practitioners. And this time it looks like it's really the rubber's going to meet the road here. It will happen, and it's in Hawaii. I'll say that again. It's
I don't have to make a pitch. You just did. I mean, I think
yeah,
that's
I guess, I mean, so let's talk about just the prominent dates and the important things to know coming up. So obviously, they can, I'm assuming people can get to this at, let me bring up the graphic, hb2021-america.org, right? I've got
yep.
it up on the screen right now. So that's the URL to get to the conference website. So you have an early bird registration currently in effect?
Early bird registration until September 17th. So you still have about 6 weeks, approximately 6 weeks, that you can get in at the early bird price. I would strongly suggest for people that are, really would like to attend, start looking at flights early. Start looking at flights now. I would say one good thing about, there aren't a lot, but one good thing about COVID is the airline industry has been a lot easier to work with. They'll allow you to, don't hold me to this, I don't think they typically will allow cancellations, but they allow postponements. They allow without there
rebooking.
being,
If you're doing a full coach fare, economy class, I think for most airlines, they don't give you much latitude. But if you're paying actual coach, you actually, you have some latitude there to rebook and do things.
Yeah, you have things that you can do there. Depending on where you are, I would say certainly in the Midwest, a lot of airports, you're looking at $600 to $700 for a flight, which isn't unreasonable. I think from the East Coast, it's somewhat more expensive, but again, it depends on where you're traveling from.
I mean, from Syracuse, it's like $3,000 plus your firstborn child, but we have the worst airfare prices on the planet here. It's not quite that bad, but it's we're already looking at coming out of a different city just because Syracuse is notoriously high for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Some cities
but
are
yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
we were looking into it honestly. Most of the airfare, you're still in that $700 range. You can still get from the East Coast, so that's not bad. I mean, this is, but like you mentioned, those prices aren't going to go down as we get closer toward the travel season to Hawaii. Prices will go up. And you have a block. You have a block of hotel rooms and available, but
and an incredible price. It's like $149, which, if you know anything about Hawaii prices, it's. I mean, originally we actually were at $199 and thought that was a great price, and then we were able to get it down to $149.
It really is $149 now. I didn't even look at it recently.
Yeah, it's $149.
That's inexpensive. I mean, that gets you like typically in like a seedy Red Roof Inn, in like
well, if you think about it right, it's a great price. So I think that's an important part. I see Vic has asked about what's the bottom line? What is it going to cost you? The conference itself, honestly, I don't know exactly what the price is, but roughly
it's
$600 to $700.
Yeah, it's priced similar to any other 3-day event that you would go to anywhere else in the continental U.S. Honestly, the hotel prices are lower than most conferences you go to now, Vic. Anywhere in the U.S., any major industry event, you're looking at $250 a night hotel rooms usually at most conferences. That's what they are. Your airfare could probably be a bit lower, not going to continental U.S. versus Hawaii. So that's going to be the little bit of a difference there. But I don't. It's not appreciably higher than going to any other event in the industry. That's what surprised me, to be honest.
Yeah, it looks like Patrick came up with 1,800. I was going to say probably 2,000 would be a realistic. And let's be honest, if spend another grand.
We should always be honest, John. But okay.
Don't just, if you're going to Hawaii, enjoy it.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's an opportunity to stay there a little bit longer. I mean, I really wouldn't leave on was it Friday, the event? No, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I mean, you're really not going to fly back out Thursday night, right? You should hang out for a
No,
bit.
you definitely don't want to try and go back.
And the hotel rate, it's the block for the hotel pricing actually is on both sides of the actual conference dates, right? So you could stay at that hotel and actually get pretty good hotel rates.
Stay there for I think it's like 7 or 8 days is our total room block. So yeah, there's a lot of additional days. It isn't a big room block, I have to tell you. So one thing I would say is get your, if you definitely want to go, get your room reserved. That's important. It's as I said, it's a great price. It's not a beachfront hotel. It's the hotel that is basically connected to the convention center, but it's not far from the beach. It's not, what is it, Waikiki Beach? It's very close. So it's all right. Let's see. Patrick, you're doing all the work.
Yeah, but Patrick's in Alaska. That's not really closer though, actually. You're up like by the North Pole, not quite, but that's a pretty good haul for you too.
He's on the same ocean.
He is on the same ocean. Yeah, I mean, us East Coast people, it's like, it is. For me, it's just the time factor. And I have to get that into my head to deal with this. It's a 3-hour time differential in Hawaii from the West Coast of the U.S. Correct? So it's 6 hours from the East Coast. Is that what it is, or is it more?
It's from the East Coast, from Eastern time to Hawaiian time is at least 6 hours. It
might be more, right?
I
should
think,
know this.
too. I used to, but I don't really now.
You will get jet lagged a little. There's no question about that. It's like flying over to Europe. I mean, you do have, I mean, these are factors. That's why you should stay a little longer.
Absolutely. I mean, there aren't a lot. It's a unique place. Interesting fact. I don't know if anybody realizes this, other than me and everybody I tell, that Hawaii is the most remote place on the planet. There is no more remote location. It's further than any place to nowhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
The most remote place on the planet. So it's far for everybody. We're going to have a ton of people coming from Japan, assuming they're able to get their stuff together on COVID. The Japanese are excited about coming. The Japanese love to come to Hawaii anyway. So that was a surprise to us how many Japanese submitted abstracts for the conference.
And again, you can get more information on this event at hb2021-america.org. That's the site. Yeah, well, I mean, you should move on this pretty soon too, because prices are good now, but like anything, the prices are subject to get more expensive, and they will, once the hotel block runs out and the airfare starts going up and your early bird's over, this could be a bit more expensive conference. So, it makes sense to actually jump on that now. Also, we're, the Healthy Indoors, healthyindoors.com site is our home. It's been our home traditionally for our media organization and the publications, and that's really where you can get all the back issues of our magazine, all the back posts we've done for 8 years. By the way, what I didn't mention, John, is this is actually our birthday. Literally, this is our birthday today. I checked the dates. So this is we launched Healthy Indoors in 2013 on August 5th. So this is happy birthday to us, which is kind of exciting. Susan, was there for that. So that's always an exciting thing to bring up. But so Healthy Indoors has been around for a bit. We recently have created the Healthy Indoors online global community, which is this is a unique animal in of itself, because we've been talking about it for the last several weeks now. It is a dedicated platform to indoor environmental sustainability concerns. Um, Fundamentally free, so you can become a member of this community. It's a platform for networking, for sharing information, and actually content. We have all of the Healthy Indoors content. There's a lot of other creators and shows and things coming into the community as we do. And of course, I guess the one thing I should mention, right, John, I guess I can plug this now, is the Healthy Buildings America event is going to stream to the Healthy Indoors online global community. So if you are an online participant, you'll be streaming to a gated area in the community. That's where you'll be watching it. So exciting things like that happen there. We're very happy to bring this premier international event into the community, and I think it's a win-win for all of us. I mean, it's great. Again, this is a place where you can obviously see events, but more importantly, you can network with other like-minded people, or even different-minded people from around the planet in the various silos of the IAQ and indoor environmental industries. And there's a lot of silos, are there not, John?
There
We're
are
fraught with
there
those.
are a number of silos, and but that's really important, because if you're able to make contacts with people that are coming from a different perspective, from a different part of the industry, that makes you, and can develop those relationships and learn from them and them from you, you become more valuable, whether
It's
you're a
huge.
consultant, contractor, an educator, whatever it would be.
Yeah, this is so we're super excited about this event. I think it's a great opportunity. We certainly encourage everybody in our listening audience to consider going to this event, because I think it's going to be unique and beneficial. I think I suspect everybody that goes there is going to find it was a valuable experience, and it's in Hawaii. You
Did you
can't mention that
mention?
too many times, you know. So we're at the witching hour now. John, thanks so very much for joining us this week. It's we had a little bumpy start with the audio, but we figured it out. Your telephone worked just fine, by the way.
Excellent, excellent.
You're the first guest actually that we've ever done on the show with a telephone connection, other than Richard Shaughnessy. I think when you were on the last time, he linked in with a
Oh,
telephone.
that's right. Yeah, Richard. He was only on my phone, as I recall it.
Yeah, technology is maybe a little slower in certain parts of the country. So with that, I guess thanks again to John Downey. He's the executive director of CIRI, the Cleaning Industry Research Institute, who is the host for the upcoming Healthy Buildings America 2021 event. You're the host organization. Of course, that event is an event being produced by the I'll get this right, International Society of Indoor Air Quality and Climate, ISIAC. So this should be a great time. So I guess at that point, I'll just say thank you so very much for joining us again here on the Healthy Indoors live show. We're here every Thursday. And guess what? Next Thursday, we're here again. And we're bringing back a guest we had a few months back, Dr. Lauren Tessier. Tessier, or you can say Tessier or Tessier. That's to be debated again. She says she goes by either name, so it confuses me when somebody has two different pronunciations of their name. It's out of my wheelhouse, John. I can't do it. But she'll be here next week. The following week, we have another great show. And I also want to point out the Healthy Indoors After Hour show, which we do on the third Tuesday of each month. That's a nighttime show. It's a 90-minute program, totally different format. This month, it'll be on August 17th, which is Tuesday, coming up in a few weeks, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's going to be a great show. We're billing it as our big ass birthday blowout bash for Healthy Indoors. So you join us. It's a light format. We're going to have a lot of our guests from over the years popping in, and it should be fun. Should be a fun time. So until next week, we'll see you same bat time, bat channel for the Healthy